Right, so we'll have to start with the champions, David. My main question for you, given it's been a relatively quiet transfer window, if Liverpool go into the new season, as it seemed to be, but if they go into once the window closes with the current squad as it is, do you think they can retain the title?
I would say that they can. Yes, like it's a weird one with like the timing and that where I think like it's easy to forget they had a little bit of a slump post COVID that like they still finished 18 points clear of everyone else. I think it depends. You're expecting like it was a natural drop off. You'd hope after they won the league, like partying too hard or whatever it was. But yeah, they hit the slump towards the end of the season. Maybe the motivation was gone and just the emotion of like finally winning it. But like I think they're still pretty well stacked when you look at it, barring any major injuries. They've got a settled team. They brought in cover at left back. I think Nico Williams like looks like he could. I don't think like Alexander Arnold's so unique that you can't really replace him at right back or have a backup. But then Nico Williams looked like he could be a solid deputy moving forward. It's just a case of it's interesting with the Thiago links and everything. Like I think everyone wants him to sign, but it's a case of Liverpool having to sell to bring someone in. Like I was surprised they didn't bring in Timo Werner. I was hoping they'd get him rather than Chelsea. But Thiago looks like Ronaldo might go to Barcelona, so it's kind of one for one there. They're around the same age, and to be honest, Thiago's probably a better player. It gives you more. Ronaldo's been brilliant, but yeah. So in short answer question, I think they could retain the title, but I think mentally, it could be tough without kind of freshening things up. I think for the sake of new faces in the dressing room alone, it would be a good boost. They've had such a tough couple of seasons that maybe they will fall away naturally.
And someone who watches them regularly, like it's easy from the outside looking in to watch Liverpool games and just see them sweeping aside all before them. But are there any hidden issues in that starting 11? It seems crazy to say, but with 99 points and all that. But like, are there any concerns in that first choice 11 from your perspective?
I don't think so massively. I know, you hear the talk around the club or whatever club journalists that like they're expecting big things from like Minamino and Naby Keita this season. So I think still cover for Firmino is still rumours now are suggesting that Rhian Brewster might either be loaned out or sold this summer. And I think Origi, barring his couple of miraculous goal contributions in big games, like he's had enough time now to prove that he can be the second choice striker, and he hasn't really ever taken his chances. So again, like I said, if big injuries, like if Firmino's to get injured or Salah or Mane, you might worry a little bit. Like Minamino is relatively untested. Can he come in, say, for 2 months and start every game at a crucial point in the season? But apart from that, I don't think there's any major issues other than the core players being all a year older and another tough long season under their belts. I think it's like going to be interesting to see if Klopp can build a long-lasting. Can he build a dynasty at Liverpool over 3 or 4 years? Such a demanding way of football. Can they just retain the title without a squad overhaul? Would be interesting to see, I suppose.
Yeah, I can totally understand if it was the normal run of things and they had the normal 2-month pre-season and there might be a bit of a hangover from a bit of a sluggish end to the season, but that's totally to be expected given the title wrapped up long before lockdown. But the chasm is so large, even between themselves and Man City last season, that even if Liverpool are a little bit off it for the first half of the season, they're still so far ahead in terms of what they bring to the table. I think you still have to make them firm favourites. What are your thoughts on Liverpool, Davy, going into the new season?
Yeah, I suppose like whenever Liverpool won the league, like the age profile of players is still quite good. Like, you wouldn't say Van Dijk or Mane or Salah are past their best or anything. Like they're still at their peak ages. I suppose the biggest thing is just how hard it was to win the league and mentally and kind of gearing yourself up again to try and win it back-to-back years is very tough, and it's been proven tough for a lot of teams. I think that's probably the biggest thing that Liverpool have to deal with this year. But I think if Liverpool get Thiago, then I think it's very hard to see anybody else win the league because he is one of the best midfielders in the world, and I think he'd give them a different dynamic. I suppose that they've gradually been moving towards more possession football anyway, and I think if they had Thiago, they could play possession and counter-attack pretty much perfectly.
it's funny as well that Thiago, like that extra dynamic that he bring them, like there's kind of an expectation, I think, now that like it's so well documented now how Liverpool are like their creativity is coming through the fullbacks and out wide. And if there's one weakness in the squad, you might say that it's in the centre midfield. There's a bit of a lack of creativity. Like I don't think Naby Keita or Oxlade-Chamberlain have probably been consistent enough to like they don't start in a lot of the big games anyway. So I can see if teams are forcing Liverpool to come inside, like some bringing in someone like Thiago would be ideal, who can with his range of pass and how he can open up defenses. So that's one weakness potentially if teams are planning more to combat Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. Will they have? Is that going to be a stumbling block for Liverpool without fresh faces in the squad?
Yeah. No, it's interesting because Thiago, Davey mentioned the age profile of the squad, and he's just a ready-made player. Like he's in his prime years, and there won't be any betting in period for him if he comes in. He's going to improve Liverpool, probably tweak their approach, and I think that's more important. Like Manchester United in their best years weren't always super busy in the transfer market. It was always just sort of moving the project forward a little bit, tactical tweaks more than anything, and that's probably what Liverpool are looking at. I think Thiago, not only good quality in terms of personnel, but he would offer them something different in those big games, even in Europe. And I know like they'll be looking to retain the title, but Liverpool have such an affinity with the Champions League. I think they'll be a little bit disappointed with their performance in this year's campaign, and they probably want to get back to winning ways in that competition again. So he is just as we saw this season, he's just ready made for that competition. So I think reasons to be cheerful for Liverpool fans, definitely. The only thing from last season, they were quite fortunate with injuries, David. I don't know if you'd agree with that. They obviously didn't have Alisson for the first chunk of the season, and that's a huge loss. But aside from that, in other sectors of the field, they managed to maintain full strength more or less. What area of the pitch would you say they could at least do without suffering injuries? Where are they least well stocked, would you say?
It's funny, like people obviously say the front three because there's a drop off in quality behind them. But one thing that I've kind of would be a little bit anxious about, like Dejan Lovren obviously has a lot of detractors, but like he was still in the top 4 choice for centre back, but he's been sold without any replacement coming in. So I'm wondering, like Joe Gomez and Joel Matip have, like, they're no strangers to injury. Like there's a lot of niggly injuries that those two have picked up. Gomez had some serious injuries, and Van Dijk has been miraculously, he's played, I think is he the only player since like Robbie Fowler in the 90s to be ever present in back-to-back seasons. So, you know, get even one of the three of them gets an injury or two. Like there's been cases where Gomez and Matip have both been injured at the same time. You're looking like the drop off behind that, unless Fabinho slots back, is kind of teenage academy players to step in there, which obviously isn't ideal. So either that, or I'd still wear, like, if Firmino gets injured, I know Minamino could possibly play a false 9 role. But again, you're looking, it's going to be a drop off, especially with the qualities he brings. Or either if Mane or Salah get injured, you're looking at, I don't know, is it going to be Brewster or Origi? Do you push Chamberlain forward? So I am a bit surprised they haven't brought in kind of established backup for the front three.
Yeah, it's a strange one to see Liverpool needing to almost sell to buy. Like that was an understandable position a couple of years ago when Bournemouth seemed to buy all of Liverpool's up and coming players for extortionate fees. That was Bournemouth are unfortunately not in the league anymore, so Liverpool can't get that money anymore. But the fact that they have to sell the likes of Brewster rather than loan him out again, or to try and gather funds, seems a bit of a strange position to be in. But the COVID-19 being that is, I can understand clubs being cautious, and Klopp had some interesting comments speaking to Kelly Cates on 5 Live there recently that Liverpool aren't owned by an oligarch or a country. Like they have to be a bit more prudent with their funds, and I think that's totally understandable. And that's probably why they didn't go for Timo Werner. Like Chelsea threw that money at him before the full ramifications of this pandemic were really laid bare, and time will tell if that was good value for money. But Chelsea have certainly been busy. We might get to them shortly. Any final words on Liverpool, lads, before we move on to Man City? Because David mentioned the young players coming through, and presumably that's what he's looking at, David, for squad depth. I know Lallana and Lovren have gone, but the likes of Curtis Jones, Nico Williams, etc., are they going to step up this season?
I think so. I think Curtis Jones, like towards the end of last season, was kind of gradually getting more involved. He was kind of one of the star performers, say, when there was that debacle with the League Cup where they were putting out the second team and the clashing with the Club World Cup. He was kind of really came to the fore in some of those FA Cup games and smaller games. And then pre-season, they seem to be integrating him. I'm surprised at Brewster alleged stories that he might be sold, because it looked like he was having a great pre-season off the back of a great loan move at Swansea. So, yeah, it's interesting to see if there's great talent in the academy, it looks like, and from what I've seen. So Klopp kind of is one to keep things tight in the squad as well and allow pathways. So I'm just interested to think, do you think that they'll retain the title, you two lads? What's your expectation?
I think there's nothing to suggest that they can't be favourites again, given, as I said, how comfortably they won the title last season. And barring Chelsea, have recruited very well, but we'll get to them and whether they're going to be able to make all those pieces fit. But I wouldn't say Man City have gone beyond the bounds in terms of improving their squad. Like, if Koulibaly comes in, I think that would be a bit of a game changer for them. We'll get to City next. But I think Liverpool, yeah, I'd be predicting them to retain the title this season. I don't know what Davey thinks.
Yeah, I think they're deserved favourites. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll do it. I think it will be interesting to see, as I said, the mental impact of winning the league last year. But I think they start deserved favourites. Yeah.
Any last word to you, David? Are you predicting back-to-back league titles?
Yeah, can't go against them. I think it'll be closer. I think that the chasing pack from, say, the top two that's been the last couple of seasons, Liverpool and City, will definitely bridge that gap a lot. They might even upset the top two, but I'm going to go for Liverpool to narrowly retain the title.